Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhiswaha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhiswaha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhiswaha Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasam Gati Bodhiswaha. Okay, there are a few questions here. I'm very happy to hear that the discussion is going well. In the group discussion, from the questions I would see that the discussions are very productive. The question says, is suffering of change considered subtle impermanence or gross impermanence? Suffering of change. Suffering of change is always gross. Suffering of change per se is gross impermanence, and suffering of change, underscoring suffering change, underscoring all the gross impermanence is a subtle impermanence. In other words, say this flower is a gross object, but this is consisted of subtle objects, subtle atoms. They constitute this flower, which becomes a gross. Likewise, all the gross impermanence, they are nothing but composed of the subtle impermanence. Subtle impermanence underscores all the gross impermanence. So the suffering change, while it is the gross impermanence, but it is consisted or it is constituted of subtle impermanence. Second question is, how to meditate on subtle impermanence? Okay, this is a very practical question. Likewise, how to meditate on bodhicitta, how to meditate on emptiness. Breathing meditation is easy. Breathing meditation, and say, for example, meditation like observing the senses, observing the mind. So there we see that, okay, observing the mind is a little complicated because the object per se is very subtle. Object is very subtle. Because the object is subtle, what are you meditating? So that is very complicated. Whereas the breathing is easier because the breathing you could feel it. In its gross form you could feel it. And likewise the observing the senses is also easy, not in that sense. What I'm saying, object is relatively subtler, grosser as compared to other objects. So from that point of view, that is just, if you settle your mind a little bit and keep observing the senses, then the senses are not as subtle as the, say, emptiness, impermanence, or the mind. So that way, that is relatively easier. Now, the meditation, there are two kinds: a single-pointed meditation and analytical meditation. For the single-pointed meditation, once you get the object, you just keep holding it. That's it. Whereas for the analytical meditation, one should be as creative. One should be as creative, but of course, should know the limit. Should know the limit. And for example, say for impermanence, subtle impermanence, what we did earlier was, say, reflect on the impermanence. For example, say a tree growing, say 10 feet tall, and then in 1 year, 1 foot, then in 1 month, 1 inch, and then one day, say 1/30th of 1 inch. You go on like this, and then slowly you see that 1 hour, 1 minute, and 1 minute it grows means it changes. 1 minute it changes. Then 1 second. 1 second it grows means it changes. So within the second, duration of second, the object changes. So this is how you keep analysis. You just carry on with this analysis, you make it subtler, say a second, and then a millisecond. You keep going like this. And then for us, I would say that Beyond millisecond, we can go, but millisecond is good enough for us to understand the, say, subtle impermanence. Because we see that the purpose of the meditation impermanence is to get a sense of urgency. Is to get a sense of urgency that we are not deceived by this, the lure of samsara, the lure of the happiness, samsaric happiness. So when we see that things are all just vibrating like this, moving so fast on the level of the millisecond, the duration, then there's nothing there to which you really feel attached to or averse to. So fast moving, and then it's taken somewhere else. Where? Towards the end, which is aging and death. So what after that? Then the fear comes to us. What will happen to me after that? Because it's so moving so fast there. So this impermanence will give a sense of urgency, and that will help us to invigorate our practice. So the meditation impermanence has to be done in a very analytical way. Likewise, meditation on bodhicitta, meditation on the same emptiness, they are all analytical. One should have a vast learning. So you have to learn the various methods, and not just one method, if possible several methods through which you do one method, and then at one point it can become you may feel bored, or you may feel it more like a mechanical, and it doesn't really trigger any feeling. Then you go for the second, and sometimes you alter, so sometimes you employ 2 methods, 3 methods, so depending on the situation. Okay, this is more analytical. You should be very analytical in nature. And the fact is, some people say that, oh, this is just nothing, meditation impermanence, emptiness. So this, if somebody does, so we have to meditate. So this is nothing, just thinking about these things. You have to meditate, which means they are actually saying single-pointed meditation. Single-pointed meditation is not bad, it is good, but it's not the full story. Likewise, analytical meditation is good, it is not bad, but it is not the full story. We need both, single-pointed and analytical both. And if somebody is more keen on one particular tradition and say that we don't need analytical meditation, then which means that we should be wise enough for some whatever tradition that is, who's the founder of the tradition, who are the later successors, popular successors. You go through these texts, the texts written by those masters. In all traditions, Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, Gelug, all traditions, you see the mention of the tremendous emphasis on emptiness, impermanence, and these things, right? So all traditions, they emphasize on the same. And then same, even according to Theravada. So what we call as Theravada, even from that point of view, finally, Anatta is to be meditated. And then I think last year when I was in Thailand, I had the honor of meeting with one of the high priests, the monks of Thailand. And then I was just, because we emphasize so much that everyone, whether you're a monk, nun, or layperson, it doesn't matter. We all should practice selflessness. We all should practice the emptiness. That is so important. And then I was trying to just share him how often is it that the anatta concept is taught to the lay audience. And then the venerable monk, I don't think all, just one, I cannot generalize on the basis of what the impression that I got from him, but the information that he told me that, oh, anatta, is very difficult. It's not difficult. So we talk about generosity and these things to the lay audience. Then I told him that yes, I know it's difficult. It is difficult not only to lay audience, even for the monks and nuns. It's also very difficult. The thing is that without this, and everybody has to achieve enlightenment, everybody has to be free from suffering. So for that, everybody has to know the anatta. So what I'm saying is that even from the point of view of the Theravada, the analytical meditation is very important, because without analytical meditation, anatta is impossible. Anatta meaning the selflessness, the concept of selflessness or the emptiness is impossible. So therefore, it is to be done in the form of analytical. It's more like the reflection. meditation or reflection. You keep reflecting and try to follow a trend of rational thinking, rational thought process, and then come to a conclusion. So which means that your mind is constantly being upgraded, because you're analyzing. As you analyze, your understanding becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. So as your understanding becomes deeper, your understanding affects your emotional state. The emotional states become more stable and controlled and so forth. So it is the meditation impermanence, emptiness, bodhicitta, they all fall under the category of analytical meditation. Okay, the next question is the mind composite? Answer is yes. Mind is composite, mind is compounded, mind is impermanent, Okay, so it says that it says, I from beginningless time that will not terminate. Yes, my mind, they existed since beginningless time, and both will go endlessly without any end. So therefore the my mind in general, and then me, this I, exists eternally but still impermanent. Simply because it lasted eternally doesn't mean that it exists as permanent. Permanent means something which does not have change. That's it. Okay. If it is composite, that means the mind is grossly impermanent. So that is not true. The mind is composite. In fact, all composite, whether it is the subtle impermanence or gross impermanence, both should be composite. Without being composite, the object cannot be impermanent. So whether it's subtle impermanence or gross impermanence, both should be composite. Okay. Okay, this is quite a lengthy discussion. It says there's a middle way to avoid the nihilism and extremism, or the absolutism in Prasangika. What are the two extremes to be avoided by the other schools? This is a huge topic, right? Two extremes to be avoided by Bodhicitta school, two extremes to be avoided by Sautanda school, two extremes to be avoided by Chittamata school, Sautanda Madhyamika school, Prasangika school. All they are different. And if you're really interested, feel free to write to me, and I'll be happy to send you recently I translated the 10 systems. The 10 systems. It is very clearly indicated there. A 10 system by Venerable Kuncho Jimma Wangpo. So that I translated for the master's course. So now after this, we are going back in August. We're going to do the 10 system. So the text I already translated. So that the part on the two extremes. So whoever is interested, just let me know. I'll send that translation. So that is very helpful. And or you can go through this one, the Cutting Through Appearance, the book Cutting Through Appearance. Okay, the same author, Venerable Kunjo Jimmy Wampo, and translated by Jeffrey Hopkins. So it's available there. And I will also translate it. The reason why I translated while already another translation was existent was because for the master's course. For the master's course, we cannot use Jeffrey's translation because Jeffrey's translation is copyrighted. We can't do anything. If I use this, we will be sued. So therefore, the best thing is to translate by myself. I translated and make sure that no one holds the copyright of this. Anybody who wants to use this in the future can freely use it without any copyright, because this is so precious. And why should it be limited? Simply, if you have money, you can get it. If you don't have money, then you cannot study Dharma. This is terrible. It's so weird. So therefore, finally, I translated just recently for about 1 month. I translated this, and will be available for everyone. Okay. Then the next, what is the relationship between self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude? When there is no self-centeredness, does it necessarily mean that there is no self-grasping ignorance? Okay. Relationship in self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude. So I think we did mention yesterday quite clearly as to what is self-grasping ignorance. This is the cognitive side of the mind which distorts the reality of the self, seeing the self as objectively real. And then on the other hand, so this of course affects the self-centeredness. Self-centered, there are two kinds, subtle and gross. So because of self-grasping ignorance, this can greatly affect the self-centeredness to be the gross version. The gross version. Self-centered, the subtle one is there all the time with us. But with the self-grasping ignorance, then it adds to the self-centered attitude and make it very gross, to the extent of saying, I am more important than others. Okay. Whereas for the subtle self-centered attitude, it may not be affected by the self-grasping ignorance. Arahats, they have the self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude, the subtle one, but they don't have the self-grasping ignorance. Right? Okay. Then the question is, when there is no self-centeredness, does it necessarily mean that there is no self-grasping ignorance? This is a good question. So it's the other way around. Self-centeredness or self-cherishing or self-grasping ignorance. No, self-centeredness, self-cherishing, the two. Let's say that self-centered attitude, when does it come to an end? When does it come to an end? This question, self-centered attitude. So this is now, when you speak about the termination of the self-centered attitude, we are talking about the bodhisattvas. Arahats, they don't really care about the self-centeredness to avoid, to eliminate. No, they are simply concerned about the self-grasping ignorance. The whole emphasis on the eliminating self-grasping ignorance. So self-centered attitude is for the bodhisattvas. They are more concerned about not only eliminating self-grasping, but also self-centeredness. Now the self-centered attitude, when is that exterminated? This question. So we have to speak about speak with relation to the bodhisattvas. So the bodhisattvas, generally speaking, bodhisattvas, and they are of three levels. Bodhisattvas of the sharp faculty, and the low faculty, and the middle faculty. Three. Bodhisattvas of the sharp faculty, middle faculty, and the low faculty. Three. Now the bodhisattvas of the sharp faculty, right? When we recite the mantra, Tiyatha Om Gate Gate Para Gate Para Samgate Bodhi Swaha. The 5 parts. Gate. First Gate, second Gate, third Paragate, fourth Parasangate, fifth Bodhi Swaha. 5. So these 5, they represent the 5 paths through which somebody traverses along the path of enlightenment to his Buddhahood. Say the first one is part of first Gati is what? Part of accumulation. Second Gati is part of preparation. Third one, Paragati, is part of seeing. Fourth one, Parasangati, is part of meditation. The fifth one, Bodhi Swaha. Bodhi is part of normal learning. Okay, this we have to learn. Particularly the beginners, make sure that you have them on your fingertips. This is what we have to learn, right? The 5 parts. Part of accumulation, 1. Part of preparation, 2. Part of seeing, 3. Part of meditation, 4. Part of no more learning. Okay. If you don't know them, note them down. First one is accumulation. First one is part of accumulation. Number 2 is preparation. Number 3 is seeing, part of seeing. Number 4 is part of meditation. Number 5 is part of no more learning. Okay, 5 parts. Now, say part of accumulation, preparation. Okay, so these 2 are the bodhisattvas on the ordinary level. The first two, Gate, part of accumulation, part of preparation. These 2 bodhisattvas are on we call them still in the domain of the ordinary beings. First 2. right? First two. Now the third one, path of seeing. From there, they become what is known as superior bodhisattvas, ultimate bodhisattvas, superior bodhisattvas. They are now no more ordinary when you reach the path of seeing. Now, path of seeing, and what is next? Path of meditation. Okay. Path of seeing and path of meditation combined together, we break them into 10 bodhisattva grounds. Path of seeing and path of meditation combined together, we break this into 10 bodhisattva grounds, also known as the 10 bodhisattva bhumis. Bhumi is a Sanskrit word. Bhumi is a ground. 10 bodhisattva ground or 10 bodhisattva bhumis. Right? Okay. Now path of seeing. Path of seeing is, of the 10 bhumis, the first one. Path of seeing is first bhumi. Right? Now path of meditation. Path of meditation, again, within that there are 10. The first one is the first bhumi. Path of meditation, you divide that into 10. The fourth path of meditation, you divide that into 10. And the first one is first bhumi, which means under first bhumi, how many paths are there? There are 2. One is path of seeing. All those in the path of seeing are in the first bhumi. Then, when you reach the path of meditation, which is divided into 10, when you're in the first level, that first level of the path of meditation also belongs to the first bhumi, right? And then you go like the second, third, fourth, okay. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10, and then Buddhahood. Right? Okay, with this, now what we need to keep in mind is that the bodhisattvas, when do they sever self-centered attitude? Right? Self-centered, self-grasping ignorance is what the Shravakas, the what? Those who seek personal liberation, Shravakas and Pratik Buddhas, they put emphasis to eradicate that. And the bodhisattvas will eradicate not only the self-grasping ignorance, they will also put effort to eradicate self-centered attitude. Now the self-centered attitude, this is a question. Self-centered attitude, when is that eliminated? This is a question. So self-centered attitude, the bodhisattvas, okay, what we say is that instead of elimination, we talk about the same subduing. There's a slight difference between elimination and subduing. Elimination and subduing, right? Elimination means it's already severed from the root. Now, subduing is where one is guaranteed or one is very confident that it does not arise. Although stains may be there, but it does not arise, right? For example, say if you have old mobile, maybe like 20 years old mobile, and then it's still working, and then because then there are so many other things to be done, like the emails and so forth, the old mobile is not usable, right? So the old mobile is there, but you don't use it. Likewise, the stains, self-centered attitude stains can be there, but it never becomes active. Because you are being so confident of the articulation mind, being so powerful and very confident that this self-centered attitude seed does not activate in the form of self-centered attitude. Okay, now with this, when does a bodhisattva get that confidence that the self-centered attitude does not arise in the bodhisattva, right? Okay, so there, it's a matter of, so in Abhisamaya Alankara, the text written by Arya Maitreya, the main text studied in the monastic universities, Abhisamaya Alankara, ornament of clear realization. So there, he very clearly stated three levels. Bodhisattvas, he relate this with what is known as the signs, 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 indications, signs of irreversibility, meaning that when you become a bodhisattva, when you first generate, okay, by the way, tell me, when is somebody qualified as a bodhisattva? Okay, for example, mornings, we generate this bodhicitta, right? May I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, how many times should we have to do that to become bodhisattva? For how many years? How many days? Or how many what? So, or in other words, at what point you are entitled as a bodhisattva? Initially, you're entitled as a bodhisattva. What? Okay, when you generate this thought, may I become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. When this thought arises in us very spontaneously, uncontrived meaning that you don't have to put effort. Effortlessly it is arising in you. The moment, the initial effortless bodhicitta, which is uncontrived, spontaneous, when that arises, you become a bodhisattva. When you become bodhisattva, you enter into the first gati, right? You enter the first gati. Okay, that is when you become a bodhisattva. That is when the kings of the devas and devis, they descend to make prostrations to you, right? Okay, now the bodhisattvas, when you reach the gati, right? When you reach the gati, now I have no worry. I will continue this journey and I will become Buddha. Or there's a danger that you can relapse. There is a danger. You can reverse. There's a danger, right? So now there's what is known as the indications or the signs of irreversibility of a bodhisattva. Signs. You're getting it? So say, generally speaking, gate, para samgate, bodhiswa. When you entered, or when you enter into the first gati, you become bodhisattva. Now tell me, where when you reach where you will not reverse anymore? Part of preparation, part of seeing, then part of preparation. Okay, part of preparation. Okay, so here when you keep in mind that first gati is what? Which part? Part of accumulation. Part of accumulation, there are three: the small, middle, and great. Right? Okay, when you reach the middle part of accumulation, when you reach the middle part of accumulation, then it is guaranteed that you will not relapse, you will not reverse anymore, guaranteed. Right? When you reach the second level of the part of accumulation, the first part, second level, when you reach that, then it's guaranteed that you will not relapse anymore. You will not relapse, you will not lose your bodhicitta anymore. Bodhicitta will keep growing, right? It will never, you will never lose it anymore. Okay, but which means that you are irreversible. You are irreversible. Okay, you're already irreversible, but you may not have the formal signs of irreversibility, right? Okay, so when you get the formal signs, very standard signs of irreversibility, then you become extremely confident, right? So although you may not be reversing anymore, but as long as you don't get these signs, you are not 100% confident. that you will forever keep going and not reversing. Okay, now the question is, when does one get the formal signs, indications of irreversibility? So that one achieves at 3 different levels, depending on what level of the faculty, what kind of faculty you belong to. Say, those of the sharp faculty bodhisattvas, which means the most intelligent category, bodhisattvas of the most intelligent category, they get this, the indication of the irreversibility when they reach the second part, the second gati. What is second gati? Path of preparation. When they enter into path of preparation, then they will get all the indications that they are going to be irreversible, right? And the indications, if we study what these indications are, they are very inspiring. For example, say for example, our body, right? Our body, if we don't take bath for like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, then it stings, right? Whereas when you reach that level of the depth of the bodhicitta, with complemented by the wisdom of emptiness, then the body acquires that quality where it does not stink, right? Like that, there are so many qualities, the indications ascribed. And then say one of the indications was that in the dreams, you see everything in the light of the dream-like nature. Meaning, in the dreams you realize emptiness. So often, right? Even in the dreams, you realize emptiness. Okay, there are so many indications there. So that is for the sharp faculty bodhisattvas. Sharp faculty bodhisattvas, they get these signs of irreversibility when they reach the path of, when they initially enter into the path of preparation. Very good. Now the bodhisattvas of the middle faculty, they get the indications of irreversibility when they reach the path of seeing. The bodhisattva of the middle faculty. Whereas the bodhisattvas of the least faculty, they acquire these skills, they acquire these indications way late, very late as 8th bhumi. Part of meditation, when there is the 8th bhumi, only then they acquire these indications of irreversibility for the bodhisattvas of the low faculty, right? Okay, which means that the confidence, the indications that now the self-cherishing mind will never arise. Now the self-cherishing mind will never arise in me. This confidence with the very standard indications will come to the bodhisattvas of low faculty during the 8th bhumi. 8th bhumi, right? Although they know that they're not going to reverse, the self-centered attitude will not take over them, but the confidence is not as 100%, right? Okay, so this is where the centered attitude is exterminated or subdued at the different levels, depending on what faculty that you are in. Okay. So this question here is, when there is no self-centeredness, does it necessarily mean that there is no self-grasping ignorance? Okay, this is a good question. Say, self-centered, if you examine where there is no self-centered attitude, arhats have. Then the bodhisattvas, let's say, the self-centered attitude for the sharp faculty, when there is the path of preparation. So, do they have self-grasping ignorance? Self-centered attitude, the manifest version is not there, right? In fact, for them, self-centered attitude will never arise in the manifest form, never arise. So, in form of seed is there, but it will never arise in the form of self-centeredness. Do they have self-grasping ignorance? Yes. So, for the bodhisattvas, when will the self-grasping ignorance stop? This is the next question. For the bodhisattvas, when will self-grasping ignorance stop? So the text very clearly indicated that when they reach the 8th bhumi, When they reach the 8th bhumi, then the same during the waking state, during the sleep state, or put it differently, during the meditative state and outside the meditative, in both cases, they're constantly having the experience of emptiness. When you are having the living experience of emptiness, at that point, self-grasping cannot arise. So when does the self-grasping ignorance stop to arise in the bodhisattvas? Is when they reach the 8th bhumi. 8th bhumi, right? Okay. Now, self-centered attitude. Who has actually exterminated the self-centered attitude from the root is the Buddhas. So, for the Buddhas, there's no mention of the self-grasping ignorance, right? Now, for the bodhisattvas, when they reach 8th bhumi, then self-grasping ignorance stops altogether. Self-grasping ignorance stops, so it never arises, right? Okay. Then the next question is, are all burned seeds inactive previously? Active seeds? Okay, this is a good question. Okay, so then I need to change my example then. Okay, right? So, but it's not my creativity of talking about the seeds. It was actually said in the text. So whoever wrote the text, they should change the example. Right? Okay, what I would say is the stains then. In this case, the stains. Actually, the burn said this is a very good example. But when you come in with this, then whose seed is that? When these questions are arising, right? Whether the seed is brown or blue or what, then I have to change the example. Right? Okay. So the better would be, let us say, the stains. The stains, right? Stains. Say the visible stains and the non-visible stains. Let's say like this, right? Say the cloth you drop in the mud, and then it becomes very dirty. Then it has the solid mud there. Then you put it in a clean water. What happens? The solid mud will go away. And still, you cannot use to wear it in public. So you have to still wash it more. Then finally, the subtle stains will be left. Then you put it in with the detergent, with the proper detergent, and even the same, to a great extent, even the subtle stains gone. Then to our ordinary eyes, it's as though like it's very clean. Then you use the iron to press it, and then you wear it in public, and people think that this is a fresh cloth. But if you compare this with a brand new from the shop, there's a difference. Right? There's a difference. There's a very subtle stain still there. Although the ordinary people will say that there's no stain at all, they're so fresh, but that there is a stain there which is not really visible. Which is visible only when you compare it with a really brand new cloth. Okay, so that is analogous to the burn seed or the cognitive obscuration. Okay, so now with this, the question asked here is, say, if these burn seeds, at one time, was it active seed at one point? Right, and then now it becomes a burn seed. So it is like, say, what would be your answer? Say, if you put a cloth or say this paper into mud. So in this, does this paper or the cloth, does it have the gross mud? Yes. Subtle mud, subtle stains, both are there. It is not that the subtle stain was once very gross, and then it becomes smaller, and now it becomes subtle. It's not like this. So where the gross mud is there, the subtle one is also there, right? And then, in fact, this, okay, I don't want to go too much there. Again, you will ask more questions, I know. So I have to control myself. So let's say where the gross the seed is there, or the gross mud is there, gross defilement is there, the subtle defilements are also there, right? So it's not that once the subtle one was once very gross, right? Gross, then what was the subtle then? If this subtle that we have now, if that was very gross yesterday, then what was the subtle one yesterday? Right? So that way it is like where the gross is, the subtle is there. Right? So this is what we need to keep in mind. It's not that once it was subtle and then, no, once it was very gross and it becomes subtle. Once it was active seed and then becomes inactive. It's not like that. Where we have the active seeds of anger, inactive seeds are also there. So this is the idea. The next, our self-referential ego, self-grasping ignorance, self-centered, a self-referential ego, is it equal to self-grasping ignorance plus self-centered attitude? Okay, this is a good question. Okay, this is more mathematics. Okay, so I would say that when I use the word self-referential ego, so this, when I use the word self-referential ego, I'm using this in a very loose sense, where self-grasping, self-centered, both are mixed up, right? But in a very precise, when we speak about philosophy and logic, we have to be very precise. When you go to very precise, I would say that we are not to solidify that as one. Self-grasping, we have to keep it separately, and self-centered attitude, we have to keep it separately. So, for example, the people who come for not Tibet house, people who come to, say, Jambi retreat, right? Jambi retreat. So like there's one entity known as people who come to Jambi retreat. So if you go into the detail, then we say that boys and girls. These are very different, right? If you go into details. So whereas just in loose sense, we can say that people who come to the Jambi retreat. So we do not classify into boys and girls. But if you go into the details, then we have to say boys and girls. So these two are very different. Likewise, self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude, these two are very different mental states. One is cognitive in nature, while other one is affective in nature. Next, is ignorance a form of gross impermanence since it will potentially be ceased one day? This is a very good question. Ignorance within us.
Sorry, Geshe-la, can we just make a clarification? So when you use, in a retreat or your teachings, self-referential ego, so we should take it loosely as self-grasping ignorance. Should we? Because we need to understand.
Okay. So in any ways, when I use it, what do you mean by that? This is your question. What do you exactly mean by that? Okay, I would say that it's a mixture of, it's like the self-centered attitude, which views that I'm more important than others, which views that this self, objectively existing self, the self-centered attitude, which views that this objectively existing self is more important than others. So that is it's more like the combination, right? That is the self-referential ego. Okay. So next, is ignorance a form of gross impermanence since it will potentially be ceased one day? Very good question. The ignorance, it started from no beginning. There's no beginning. They start from no beginning, ignorance. But there is an end to it. So because there is a beginning and because there is no beginning, but the end, the continuum will come to an end. Because the continuum will come to an end, it falls under the category of gross impermanence. Yes, is a gross impermanence. Affection, I don't know whether it's affection or affliction, I don't know. Affliction arises when they are self-grasping ignorance and self-centered attitude. When we talk about eliminating self-grasping ignorance, does it mean that self-centered attitude also to be eliminated together? No mention of antidote for the self-centered attitude. Okay. What is the antidote to self-centered attitude? This question. What is the antidote to self-centered attitude? Self-centered attitude to be exterminated in two ways: the gross and the subtle. Right, gross and subtle, and the gross one, how we exterminate that? The gross one, in fact, we can do that in two ways. One is by seeing emptiness. By seeing emptiness, the solidified version of the self dissolves. then hanging on this self will be much more relaxed. So by seeing emptiness, it will help us to eradicate the gross self-centered attitude. For example, arhats, they don't have the gross self-centered which says that I am more important than others. It's because of they having seen emptiness directly. One. Number two is by deliberately cultivating bodhicitta, by deliberately cultivating compassion and bodhicitta. So there, bodhicitta is to reach out to others, embrace others. Self-centered attitude is to push others away. Right? So these two are contradictory. These two are directly in opposition with respect to the object of apprehension. These two, self-centered attitude and other cherishing bodhicitta, these two are directly in opposition with respect to the object of apprehension. One says that you go away, and other says come, I'll embrace you. Right? One embraces and the other pushes others away. So therefore, because that these two are directly in opposition, if you practice other cherishing mind or the bodhicitta, then the self-cherishing mind automatically subsides. So therefore, the practice of bodhicitta is so important. Okay, now, then as we go into the subtler, how to slowly get into the subtler self-centered attitude. So for this, the subtlest version of self-centered attitude, we have to eradicate the cognitive obscuration, right? Cognitive obscuration. And what exactly is cognitive obscuration and how to get rid of that? Edward will ask, right? Before day 8. Before day 8. Okay. Sorry? Okay. Appreciate if Geshe-la can teach us guided meditation, for example, to diffuse pain through meditation. Okay. So, therapy, how to reduce our pain. Okay. Okay, one simple thing. I don't want to go into detail to make it very quick. Let's say you are very unhappy. There's heaviness of your mind coming to you, heaviness coming to your mind. So when that happens, right? And okay, when that happens, go to your room, close the door, latch the door, sit comfortably, do a little bit of breathing exercise, right? First do this exercise, which we did this morning, the physical breathing exercise, physical exercise. After this, then do a little bit of the breathing exercise to calm down the gross, agitated mind. To calm this down, you do the breathing meditation. Once that is done, then say, if it is physical pain, right? Physical pain, actually we can't do as much, but we can a little bit. Then the mental, this is more effective. What you do is, if you have the experience of the emptiness, this is the most powerful. Nothing can compare with this if you have the experience of emptiness. One. Then number two is bodhicitta. If you have really the feel of bodhicitta coming to you, and if you see the suffering people there, then the more you think about, if you have the pain here, mental pain, you think about the suffering of the others. The more you think about suffering of others, as compassion grows, you become very courageous. And because of it, your pain subsides automatically. Number two. Number three. Okay, I've not seen emptiness. My body is far away, right? So what should I do now? If this is the situation, then what you do is that, as I said earlier, just go to your room, latch the door, and then sit comfortably, do the little bit of physical exercise, and do the breathing meditation for like 21 times or like 5 minutes. Once that is done, and then say, observe this pain or the say heaviness in your mind. Just observe this. Just keep observing. As well, like say somebody's crying and you keep observing this person crying. Just observing. Likewise, you treat this pain as external, as something outside object, and you are the observer. Just keep observing this. Where you feel the heaviness. What is that like? What is that heaviness like? Just keep observing it. Just keep observing it, and depending on how stable you are in your single point of meditation, if you're very stable in a single point of meditation, just keep observing it, then slowly you will see that this heaviness will dissolve. And what is the process? What is the rationality behind this? Very simple. Say, this is my hand and this is my mind, right? And I have a pain here, same like the pain here, the heaviness coming here. So say this is my heart, this chest part, this is my chest part, and my mind is observing around my chest part what is happening here. I'm just observing it. As I keep observing what happens is that to observe it, and particularly when you observe, the observing mind becomes more and more intense. What is happening is that pain is what? Around the chest you feel the heaviness, corrosion, so forth. Who is feeling this? Your mind is feeling it. Right? Now, this is being observed by your mind. Right? Your mind becomes observer of that pain. So what happens is that as the observation becomes more intense, then all the mind gets centered around as observer. Or even the mind which is hovering around the pain, which feels the pain, even that mind is pulled. For example, say when the war is happening, then the soldiers were sent to all the different directions. And of the different directions, if the northern side, the enemy is stronger, then what do? You pull all the soldiers from the other directions and send it here. So likewise, your mind is all centered towards the observer. Then the mind, where the chest is, the mind is pulled from there. So nobody is there to feel the pain, so the pain disappears. Right? So this is one thing. Whereas the best would be if you have emptiness experience and the bodhicitta experience, and physical pain and mental pain. Physical and mental pain, even the physical pain triggered by the mental. Physical pain can be two. For example, the heaviness that you feel, feeling of loneliness, feeling of heaviness, feeling of corrosion, feeling of just hollowness. This is actually what is happening. It's not just a mental. It is a mental. Mental affects the physiology, and the physiology is affected. So it's the energy being disturbed. So this energy disturbance is in the form of physical experience. So this physical experience is not because somebody hit you. It's because of your thinking. Your thinking affects the physical, and because of this, a very unpleasant feeling, unpleasant sensation arises there. So this unpleasant sensation is not primarily because of the external factors. It's because of the mental thinking that affects that retrieved or created the unpleasant physical, the very subtle physiological, the pain is created. Right? So that one, and somebody hits you, and then you say you have acute pain or ulcer pain, let's say the long-term ulcer pain, acute ulcer pain. That is purely physical, not because of your wrong thinking. Of course, if you ask, that so you are being very negative all the time, right? Somebody brings you food, or you bring it on the wrong time. Still we have 5 minutes more. Right? And bring the food at the right time, or the food, it is not in the proper design. Right? And then say, oh, there's no water with it. Right? And if there's water with it, who drinks the water? Right? Always negative. This negative thinking that affects the gastric. That affects the gastric. That affects the energy. Energy affects your gastric, and the ulcer is created. And then this ulcer manifests in the form of vivid physical manifestation of the injury happens to your stomach. And then that is something, just observe it, this pain will not go. Temporarily it can go, but it will again come back. Because the physically is so badly affected. It's not just the subtle energy, it's the gross body being affected. So whereas, say, the heaviness that you feel, this is not because the gross body is affected, it's the subtle energy that is affected. So that can easily be rectified by the meditation on emptiness, meditation bodhicitta, and the meditation on this observing the pain. Okay.
Like when we look at the flowers, look in the petals, Does that mean? Let's do it.
Geshe-la, just want to ask a question regarding meditation on the pain, the emptiness and the pain. When we actually look at the flowers, we look into the atoms, microscopic levels, like atoms of the flowers and things like that. So when you look into the pain, how do you look into that? Can you look in the microscopic level or?
Okay, the pain, you want to see the emptiness of the pain, or you just want to observe the pain? There are two things.
Emptiness of the pain.
Emptiness of pain, you have to discuss. That will be discussed later, right? So the emptiness of the flower, emptiness of the self, emptiness of the mind, right? So that will be discussed later. Perhaps 19th, 20th, 21st, or 22nd. 22nd we have class? No. 21st we have. Okay. So maybe 21st or 20th. 20, right? So we'll do the emptiness of the mind. With the emptiness of the mind, then the emptiness of the pain, all these things will come. Yeah. So that is yet to be discussed. Okay. So now it's already 1:45, right? We'll try to finish these two questions, and then afternoon is supposed to be Bodhicitta, but what? We'll do emptiness or Bodhicitta? Huh? Okay, we'll do. Okay, if there is someone who likes to do Bodhicitta, then that person gets the preference, because actually it is for the Bodhicitta, right? Whereas if everybody says that emptiness, then we'll go for emptiness. Okay, so the question is, okay, this is already done, the last one. If the first seal says all composite things are impermanent, both gross and subtle, and the second seal says all contaminated things are of suffering nature, and third, everything is empty of objective existence, should not afflictions and resulting suffering remove themselves by virtue of impermanence? Okay, let's say if everything is impermanent, then even the suffering is also impermanent. Then suffering will go, because it is impermanent, it will disappear, right? Okay. So impermanence, when it's about all composite things are impermanent, it doesn't mean that all composite things are grossly impermanent. Gross impermanence, the continuation ceases, right? Gross impermanence is what? Where the continuum ceases. Whereas when the Buddha says all composite things are impermanent, Buddha is indicating what? The subtle impermanence, which means the momentariness. If something is momentary, it doesn't mean that that object will come to the end one day, because our mind is momentary. It falls under the subtle impermanent. Mind per se is not subtle impermanence. Don't say this. Mind is subtle impermanence. Never say like this. Mind is impermanent, right? Mind has the subtle impermanence. This is the difference. Mind is impermanent, but mind is not subtle impermanence. Right? Mind has. For example, I have hands. I am not hands. I have hands. I am not hands. Likewise, mind is impermanent. Mind is not subtle impermanence. Mind has subtle impermanence. The flower has subtle impermanence. Flower, we can say it is gross impermanent. Flower is gross impermanent, and it has subtle impermanence, because it is momentarily changing. What is momentarily changing has subtle impermanence as its aspect. Okay, so the suffering, if the suffering per se is gross impermanent, then the suffering will ultimately come to an end naturally. But and then even if it falls under the category of the gross impermanence, but it is not necessary that it should come to an end on its own. For example, self-grasping ignorance. Self-grasping ignorance, one day it will come to an end if we put concerted effort to apply the remedies. If you don't apply the remedies, self-grasping ignorance will never come to an end on its own. It will come to an end to indicate that it is gross impermanent when you apply the remedies. So the gross impermanent will come to an end, right, on its own, and there's another category will come to an end only when the opposing factor is introduced deliberately. For example, the flower, the bitter flower, however nice that is, it will come to an end automatically on its own. For example, say our body will come to an end automatically. But self-grasping ignorance never comes to an end automatically. Don't expect that. Although it falls under gross impermanence, right? Okay, the question is very good though. The question is very good. Okay, there are, I think, some more questions. I think we'll stop here. Yeah. The last one, okay. The last one is a very simple question. Okay, is not unhappy a positive phenomenon? I am not unhappy, right? I am not unhappy. Okay, I am not unhappy. Positive phenomena, negative phenomena. I am not unhappy. It's a negative phenomenon. Is it affirming negative, non-affirming negative? I'm not unhappy. Which means that, say, you come to console, Geshe-la, don't worry, like this. I said, why? Why are you consoling me? I'm not unhappy. Which means that I am happy, right? Although I explicitly reject, I explicitly negate being unhappy, but happiness is inferred. Right? Happiness is inferred. So therefore it is a affirming negative. Okay, in 1 hour you've already forgot it. Affirming, non-affirming negative. You already forgot it? And never mind, because all new concepts are coming one after the other altogether, right? So, exception, no problem. Okay, so that is affirming negative. It is not positive, it's affirming negative, right?
Geshe-la, wouldn't that be a false dichotomy? Because you're saying that the only possibilities are happiness and unhappiness. What if you were feeling bewilderment at the time? Saying I'm not unhappy is a valid statement, but bewilderment is, it's possible for you to feel bewilderment. You feel bewildered.
Oh, bewilderment, yes.
Yes, so you feel bewilderment. You're telling the truth if you say I'm not unhappy, but you're not happy. It's a false dichotomy. You're making the dichotomy of either happiness
or unhappiness. When you are bewildered, are you happy or unhappy?
Neither. It's a false dichotomy. There's more emotions than just happiness and
what exactly does it mean by bewildered? Confused. In Tibetan, it is like confused, yes. Confused, lost, like bewildered. Yeah. So tell me what. So if I say I'm not unhappy, right? I'm not unhappy. I'm saying that this is an affirming negative.
But if you say that it's affirming negative, there's two possibilities. When you rule out one, it has to be the other. But with human emotions, there's more emotions than happy and unhappy. There's a broad spectrum of emotions.
Very good. Neutral feelings are there, right? Not happy, not unhappy, right? Okay, this is a good question. So this, you have to debate with Acharya Vasubandhu. Right? Acharya Vasubandhu said that, for example, say, okay, he gave one example. Oh, this flower is unattractive. This flower is unattractive, which means it is not beautiful, it is ugly. Unattractive, it rejects attractiveness. But attractive, then ugly, and in neutral are also there. So here, when we speak about, say, unattractive, attractive, when you add the negative to this, right? Sometimes we can understand both sides, neutral and the opposite of the attraction. But sometimes it can mean just opposite, rather than being inclusive of the neutral in between. So likewise, when you say, no, I'm not unhappy, which means I'm happy, right? So this is according to Acharya Vasubandhu. So if Krishna is not happy, debate with Acharya Vasubandhu. This is Acharya Vasubandhu's version, right? Whereas your version is more closer towards Arya Asanga's version. Arya Asanga is Acharya Vasubandhu's elder brother. Two of them had a little bit of, say, they diverge in explaining what exactly is ignorance. It's a very beautiful discussion. Okay? Yeah, 3 prostrations.